Hello, I'm Pam Carruthers of healingstars.com. This is the chart for the new moon, 24th of June 2017. It was in the early hours of the morning. There's some very good positive connections of planets in this particular chart that takes us right through to the next new moon in July. The first thing that's of note, because it's a really close connection, is Venus. Venus in the sign of Taurus, up here in that coral sector, and it's making, you see the blue line is a very good trine, a flow of energy to the fellow earth sign of Pluto in Capricorn. Now that is extremely good, and that only happens one day a year. The fact it's happening at the new moon is incredibly significant, because as I said, that's the theme of the month. There's also a grand trine. Now this is a slower moving process because it is involving Saturn, it's still retrograde in Sagittarius, Uranus up here in Aries, fire sign, and the North Node down there in Leo. Now because the planets Saturn and Uranus move slower, far slower than Venus, the Moon, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, that holds its pattern for quite some time, for quite a few months. Uranus is the new, Uranus is the unexpected, it's the genius in all of us, unconventional, the rebel, and Saturn is practical, it's grounded, and in Sagittarius it's not very happy, it's not really its sign. However, it does want things to be grounded. So there might be a tendency of a grand trine isn't necessarily always positive. The tendency might be to, start something, think it's great, but maybe not in the long run. The reason I'm saying that is actually endorsed by the Sun and Moon. Cancer, the sign of Cancer, which began on the solstice, the summer solstice, is an emotional sign. And those of you born who are Cancerians, you're connected very much to the energy of the moon, to the mother energy, the nurturing, the compassion that we all feel when we are well mothered and when we mother ourselves. The problem at the new moon is Mercury. Mercury, 5 degrees Cancer, is very close to that new moon. Mercury joined the Sun on the solstice. How interestingly is that? Mercury is the planet to do with communication, and it never moves far away from the Sun. It can only move up to 28 degrees away. So many of us have what we call combustion. The Sun and Mercury very, very close is known as being combust. So Mercury is kind of dazzled by the energy of the Sun. Mercury, communication, wants to take a step back, and it can't when it's that close to the Sun. Now many geniuses are born with the Sun Mercury exactly conjunct. It's called Kazumi, wonderful name. Geniuses such as Mozart, as a for instance. But for the rest of us, it's about having ideas, being able to communicate, but are you being heard? When Mercury and the Sun are together, it's a very interior, what I call you going within rather than expressing. And the time for expressing that message that you have, that is close to your heart, has emotions connected to it, is when Mercury is at 7 degrees away from the Sun, which just happens to be the 27th. Now I'll just show you that chart in a moment. Meanwhile, notice also we've got Mars. Mars is now travelling through Cancer. It's the Sun and Mars will join, and they're going to be travelling side by side for quite some time. Mercury and Mars. Mercury is the fastest moving planet after the Moon, and Mercury is making connections virtually all week after this new moon. So I'll move forward slightly. So one day, 25th. You see that? You just look at Mercury. There you are, the moon's obviously moved. There's Mercury at 10 degrees. And then the 27th, it's now moved far enough away from the sun. It's easier to express what you need to communicate at this time. But then, I don't know if I'm using that word, but however, we get by Wednesday, Thursday, Mars and Mercury have joined. This is anger. This is road rage. This is being ungrounded. So be careful around, if you're prone to rush things physically, be careful and just take your time a bit more. And also be aware of people letting off steam, Mars, Mercury, saying things maybe they regret soon after. It might not be you, it might be others around you. Mars is to do with the masculine, the male, men, just to be aware of that. Venus, notice, is squaring the south node. That's of interest coming through here, but it is something very much to do with relationships which could have a karmic feeling to them. Ideal in my astrology consultations, I look at specifically at any planet at a right angle to the nodes of the moon. There's a north node down here in Leo, south node Aquarius, Venus in Taurus. It's a past life process that I guide people through. It's very easy. It's not deep hypnosis. Please contact me if you're interested in that. The next aspect that Mercury is making, of course, actually I've gone too fast, is its opposite Pluto. There it is on Friday. Now that might not affect you personally, however it's also to do with what goes on in the news. Pluto is plutocracy, it's power, it's big institutions in Capricorn. Today is the 27th and Google have just got themselves into trouble. That's certainly a large organisation. So also, just the news always reflects for the astrology. It's always important to look at that and see them side by side. We have, through the days, we've got Mercury, as I said, opposite Pluto. What is happening by Saturday, going through to the 1st of July here, is we do have the Moon and Jupiter joining. Now, one day in the whole month, the Moon joins Jupiter. And that's always a good sign. And look out for it because it's beautiful. Jupiter is visible in the night sky in the northern hemisphere. You might have noticed, what's that bright object after, the sun has set, obviously quite late, and the moon will join it, so you'll be able to see it. And it's a very beautiful energy of, wishing upon a star. It's in Libra, Jupiter and the moon, governed by that beautiful Venus in her own sign. And Venus at 25 of Taurus, 24, 25, is actually connecting to the constellation, the Pleiades, that wonderful star group. Now, Venus is a morning star at the moment. You can't see Venus with that constellation because, of course, the sun is shining and it's invisible. But you can see Venus in the morning sky if you get up really early, before the sun rises. A rather lovely thing to watch. The other thing on Saturday is Chiron. Chiron is now right at the end of Pisces and it's about to move retrograde. So a huge number of people, you have Chiron in that sign. It's a 50-year orbit. Most of the people born in the 60s will have Chiron, if that's you, in the sign of Pisces. Highly sensitive to energy. That's the nature of Pisces and Chiron. A wound around, like a deep soul wound about maybe being forsaken by God. It's not an easy place to have Chiron, I can tell you. But also healing, and that's where Neptune comes in as well in Pisces. Healing is incredibly important for those of you who have Chiron in Pisces. It's a spiritual wound and it needs to be honoured as such, because I do believe that the gift is in the wound. So those who are the the deepest wound have the biggest gifts, should I say. Well, that's the week ahead, and enjoy. But also notice all the things that are going on around you in the realm of communication. And notice that Cancer is a feeling, emotional sign. So when you speak to others, they might be feeling very stressed. That Mars Mercury can also indicate a lot of stress. Take 3 deep breaths before you say anything unkind. Bless you. Thank you for watching. I'm Pam Carruthers of healingstars.com.